Longtime admirers of the amazing Dr. Pol have been moved by rumors of unexpected news. However, the renowned veterinarian isn't the main focus this time. It's on the woman who has discreetly influenced each phase of his life while standing by his side for more than 50 years. Diane Pol has consistently been the calm, elegant, and unwaveringly loyal force behind the scenes. However, something has changed, and viewers are left wondering what's going on in Weidman, Michigan, behind those well-known clinic doors. Those who are closest to her narrative are the ones who are most affected by a recent development that has raised concerns. Could this be another test of the Pol family's fortitude or a watershed moment? There is no doubt that animals are not at the center of this tale. However, fans believed they understood about a woman's quiet strength. Pol has a background in animal care. Growing up in the little town of Mayville, Michigan, influenced Diane Pol's lifelong affinity for animals. Growing up in a home that welcomed a wide range of animals, from pigeons to chickens, Diane became acutely aware of the needs of both large and tiny animals. These early encounters not only helped her make memories, but also shaped a caring perspective that would subtly direct a large portion of her adult life. She didn't learn how to be comfortable among animals in school. It was a day-to-day existence surrounded by feathers and fur. Diane's innate sensitivity and intellectual curiosity grew stronger as she aged. She enrolled at Mayville Community High School, where she found her passion for teaching and thrived academically. She started her career in education before attending Michigan State University to obtain postgraduate degrees in special reading. Her academic values, patience, structure, comprehension, and patience, became fundamental to her future interactions with people and, indirectly, the veterinary field. Her early exposure to animals helped her develop a strong connection with the mission of animal welfare, even though her career began in classrooms rather than clinics. Values, compassion, care, and service were the driving forces behind the move into veterinary services rather than necessity. These principles, which were ingrained in her from an early age and reinforced throughout her schooling, served as the firm foundation for whatever partnership she would eventually pursue. Healing was always at the center of her heart, whether she was at the front desk promoting animal care or fostering young brains. Today, Diane does much more than serve as an operational staff member. She had an early background in animal care and approached every encounter at Pol Veterinary Services with compassion, empathy, and attention to detail. The woman who contributed to the establishment of one of America's most renowned veterinary clinics was the same young girl who fed the chickens in her backyard. Her experience demonstrates how compassion may grow into a life with subtle yet lasting effects when it is sown as personal roots. And a fortuitous encounter with a guest from the other side of the world altered everything just as her destiny appeared certain. The beginning of Dr. Pol's journey. The tale of Dr. Jen Pol's ascent to veterinary prominence starts with a daring foray into the unknown rather than with fame. As a teenage exchange student, Jen left his family farm in the Netherlands in 1961 to visit the United States, specifically the tiny hamlet of Mayville, Michigan. It was an act of bravery and curiosity that altered his life's trajectory. He not only experienced a different culture there, but he also met Diane Dalrymple, a young woman whose kindness and wisdom would stay with him forever. After his exchange year, he returned to Europe and enrolled in Utrecht University's rigorous veterinary program. Despite the demanding academic schedule, he was dedicated to both his academics and keeping up his relationship with Diane across continents. Their relationship transcended the Atlantic, which ultimately resulted in 1967 marriage. After earning his degree in 1970, Jan returned to Michigan with his new spouse and his veterinary credentials. He started working in Harbor Beach, Michigan, where he laid the foundation for a career that would last for decades. Dr. Pol put in a lot of effort during the practice's early years, racing from farms in Michigan, treating a wide range of animals, and gaining recognition. He and Diane didn't decide to launch Pol Veterinary Services on their own until 1981. The principles of availability, reliability, and care were the foundation of their garage-based business, which resonated with the rural farming communities they catered to. Dr. Pol's standing as a realistic, no-nonsense veterinarian started to grow rapidly. With the release of the incredible Dr. Pol in 2011, the family practice eventually gained national attention. The show's candid portrayal of rural reality and Jan's grounded demeanor won over the audience. The more they stayed, the more the Weidman Clinic became an emblem of animal compassion and went beyond just business. Dr. Pol's path from a Dutch student abroad to a veterinary icon is one of foresight, perseverance, and the guts to start something completely different, even if it's far from home. A lasting affection. Diane and Jan Pol's relationship started in the hallways of Mayville Community High School, where a young Dutch exchange student met a bright, caring Michigan native. A lasting bond based on mutual curiosity and shared ideals swiftly developed from what had begun as a friendship. Handwritten letters and long-distance love characterized their courtship, which culminated in 1967 marriage. Patience, trust, and a willingness to develop together were the cornerstones of their relationship from the start, and would characterize their decades-long collaboration. Romance was never the only aspect of their relationship. It has to do with cooperation. Diane supported Jan while he pursued a career in veterinary medicine and eventually founded his own practice. Beside, rather than behind, establishing a role that was a wonderful fit for him. Diane concentrated on people, whereas Jan concentrated on the animals, maintaining the clinic with compassion and organization. There was an implicit agreement between them. Behind the scenes, one kept everything together while the other took the lead in the field. It had nothing to do with titles or pride. It was about collaboration and purpose. Their journey is lengthy, having started decades ago and continuing into parenting while living and working together. Diane and Jan decided to adopt Kathleen Charles and Diane Jr. into their family despite the fact that they were biologically childless. They provided a lovely household that was full of faith, love, discipline, and fun. But they also experienced some heartache during their lengthy journey. It was impossible to imagine how devastated they were after the deaths of their grandson Adam and son-in-law Gregory. However, they were bonded by love and supported one another during these difficult times, which was their greatest source of comfort, and the strength that comes from decades of genuine collaboration. Their marriage is completely different because of the quiet resolve that kept them going. Despite starting from different continents, establishing a clinic and juggling the responsibilities of having a family, Diane and Jan were united in their love despite their obvious personal losses. Their marriage was characterized by devotion and common kindness rather than the biggest promises, and regard shown for one another. They demonstrated throughout their lives that love is more than just patience. Along with the waves of problems, it is teeming with activity, labor, and change. The woman behind the vet, Diane Pol's steady, disciplined leadership, is crucial to understanding Pol Veterinary Services' success, which goes beyond Dr. Jan Pol's fieldwork. Diane was the operational power that made vision a reality, even though she rarely took center stage. From handling phone calls to resolving scheduling conflicts, she turned what would have been a disorganized small-town clinic into a productive, orderly operation. Although it wasn't a glamorous role, it was necessary, and she carried it out with poise and taciturn authority. Diane's administrative skills were not the only thing that made her unique. She contributed emotional intelligence to every aspect of the clinic. She is a highly intuitive communicator who can comprehend the unsaid concerns of both clients and staff because of her special education experience. Diane offered more than just logistical support. When a family brought in an unwell pet or a farmer called in with a sick calf, she was aware that providing quality veterinary care required treating people with the same consideration as animals. Under her own strong belief in service, the move from educator to veterinary administration was nearly seamless. Diane did more than help. When Jan first opened the practice, she centered her life on this common goal and devoted herself entirely to the cause. Titles and vanity were absent from her dedication. It had to do with purpose. She transformed the clinic into a nurturing environment for all employees, where business was subordinated to compassion. Diane demonstrated all the endurance and dedication necessary to be a driving force at the clinic well into her 70s. It was not necessary for the public to validate her. Her dependability served as the strongest possible witness for decades. Whether she was training new administrative staff, or smiling at a pet owner who was frightened, her attitude towards everyone remained constant. That fundamental heart and humility permeated every move she took in life. She was actually the driving force behind the Veterinarian and the entire achievement. Their adoptive children's story. Despite not having biological children, Dr. Diane Pol and Diane Pol had a heart that was always open to family. They eventually adopted 3 kids, Diane Jr., old Kathleen and Charles. Each of them added a distinct personality and life story to the Pol household. The couple's choice to adopt was consistent with the caring principles they maintained in their job as veterinarians. Deep responsibility, patience and unconditional love. Care, discipline and compassion weren't just ideas in the home where these kids grew up, they were modeled on a daily basis. The oldest is Kathleen Pol, choose to live a life mostly hidden from the public. Rachel and Adam James Butch are the couple's 2 children. She married Gregory Butch. Despite Kathleen's infrequent appearances on The Incredible Dr. Pol, fans found her narrative compelling because of the struggles she endured. Gregory's death from cancer caused the family to suffer terrible losses. Then in 2019, their son Adam passed away too soon. Adam's death had a profound impact on the family, particularly Diane and Jan, who were very close to their grandkids, even if his cause of death was never made public. These disasters represented serious periods in the Pols' private life, which supporters who had a strong emotional bond with the family frequently acknowledged subtly but effectively. The most famous of the brothers is Charles Pol, the middle sibling, who works behind the scenes as a producer and frequently appears on camera. His early veterinary career shaped his passion for storytelling, which ultimately led to the amazing Dr. Pol's appearance on national television. His charisma on camera and leadership off camera were major contributors to the show's success. In 2018, Charles married Beth Oakes, a longtime friend, and the 2 of them have 2 young children, Silas and Abigail. Charles has not only continued the family's media history, but he has also begun to broaden it. The Incredible Pol Farm, his offshoot venture, is the most recent example of the family's growing interest in sustainability and rural living. The youngest of the 3, Diane Jr., is more reticent but nevertheless plays a significant role in the family's history. In 2023, she wed Ryan Liam, became a stepmother to his 5 kids, and helped raise a blended family with kindness and caring. Her life demonstrates how the Pol family's principles of love, adaptation, and perseverance transcend the spotlight, despite the fact that she hasn't appeared on camera. Although Kathleen, Charles, and Diane Jr., the 3 Pol children, have diverse trajectories, taken as a whole, they stand for the resilience of the household that Jan and Diane built, and that continues to this day. Their stories serve as a reminder to viewers that the Pol heritage is fundamentally about family in all its forms, not only animals. However, their narrative hasn't always been happy. Heartbreak marks certain pages, tragedy in the family. Although The Amazing Dr. Pol delighted and educated millions of viewers worldwide, the Pol family went through personal anguish that was hardly ever depicted on film. The passing of Gregory Butch, the spouse of their oldest adopted daughter Kathleen, was one of the most devastating losses. A few years later, the family experienced yet another catastrophe, which added to their already deep anguish. This time in 2019, their grandson, Adam James Butch, passed away unexpectedly. Gregory and Kathleen's kid, Adam, was a good-hearted young man with a bright future. Both the show's devoted viewers, many of whom had followed his tale through family updates, and his family were horrified by his untimely demise. The cause of his death was never made public, but it was evident from the family's public quiet and solemn tone that the loss was profound and intimate. Particularly for Jan and Diane, who had been instrumental in raising Adam, the tragedy created a long-lasting void in their lives. Diane Pol suffered greatly from losing her son-in-law and grandchild in such a short period of time. She had maintained her extraordinary fortitude by appearing on the show and in the clinic in the midst of intense grief. Her presence served as a source of emotional fortitude. Even though those close to her knew how deeply these incidents had affected her, she continued to quietly stand by others. Diane remained the embodiment of the calm power that fans admired, whether she was working alongside her husband or behind the front desk. In addition to strengthening the family's bonds, the tragedies revealed new aspects of their public personas. During this period, the humorous Charles Pol developed a reflective side, consoling his parents and promoting the family purpose on television. Indignant followers flooded social media with love, consolation, and condolences, offering a deluge of support. These instances served as a reminder that there was a real family experiencing genuine grief behind all the cameras and happy situations. The audience as a whole was even more impressed by the Pols' ability to persevere in the face of tragedy, viewing them as strong human beings rather as just veterinarians. The latest health scare of Diane Pol. Fans took notice of Diane Pol's personal health issue in March 2024, as she was the co-founder and longtime office manager of Pol Veterinary Services. In order to treat the chronic ache that had grown over time, she had back surgery. Although the Pol family decided to keep the specifics of the procedure confidential, it was reported that the surgery went well, and Diane soon went back to her home. Longtime fans who had become accustomed to her usual presence were concerned and curious about her diminished presence, both on the show and in the clinic. Dr. Diane Pol and the committed clinic staff managed the day-to-day operations of the clinic during her brief recuperation. The staff came together to continue providing the high caliber of care for which Pol Veterinary Services is renowned, even in Diane's absence. During this time, Diane's crucial but frequently unnoticed contribution to the clinic's success was brought to light. Her absence demonstrated the extent to which she is ingrained in the practice's environment and infrastructure, from client communications to office operations. Since then, this choice has been taken in favor of Diane, whose followers responded on social media with words expressing general worry and wishing her a quick recovery. Numerous people related personal tales of how Diane connected with them, whether it was through her soothing demeanor at the front desk, amicable conversations on television, or just her consoling presence next to Dr. Pol. Her expertise and strength struck a chord with viewers, encapsulating the unique connection the Pol family has built with its fans over the years. Diane Pol was well enough to resume her duties at the veterinary clinic by the end of 2024. For all of her fans and co-workers, the reunion was an emotional one. Thus, this reunion was one example of her physical toughness or unbreakable spirit. Considering what Diane has done for her community and career, her quiet strength, which continues to inspire those who respect her both on and off screen, is brought to light by this health issue. Diane's brief absence also demonstrated how much the clinic staff values her both personally and professionally. A longtime employee told a local newspaper that without her, the clinic simply didn't feel the same. "She is more than simply our boss, she is the lifeblood of this establishment and the face of the coming generation." A key player in extending the Pol family's legacy outside of their Michigan clinic is Charles Pol, the adopted son of Doctors Jen and Diane Pol. Charles, who was born on March 6, 1979, grew up seeing his father's animal care and frequently accompanied him on farm visits throughout the countryside. Charles chose a different route, one based on media and narrative, even though he was raised surrounded by the veterinary industry. He returned home with the idea of sharing his family's tale with the world after moving to Los Angeles to obtain industry experience, after graduating from the University of Miami in 2003 with a degree in communications. Charles not only made an appearance but also contributed to the creation of the incredible Dr. Pol. In his capacity as executive producer, he was instrumental in developing the concept of the program, which showcased the actual difficulties of rural veterinary care, while striking a balance between fun and authenticity. One of Nat Geowild's most successful initiatives was the outcome of his ability to combine his experience in the media with the clinic's goals. The incredible Pol Farm was another product of his imaginative endeavors. The family's new agricultural trip is the subject of a spin-off series. The show showcases farming life from a contemporary perspective, partly motivated by the COVID-19 outbreak and a desire to re-engage with food sustainability initiatives. Charles views his family as the fulcrum of his private existence. He married Beth Oakes, a friend from his youth, and the two of them are blessed with 2 daughters, including Abigail, who was born in 2019, and 2021 born Silas. Their lives, which are briefly shown on TV and social media, are full of strong family ideals, a love of the country, and communal values. Beth has continued to be a helpful companion in both family and farming endeavors, collaborating with Charles to uphold the coziness and warmth that the Pol's name has long represented in the minds of the audience. Charles Pol reflects the evolving nature of the Pol legacy in many ways. Charles expanded his parents' legacy of success in healthcare and volunteer work to include outreach and storytelling. While leading the family into a highly modern era of education, technology, and a revitalized philosophy towards nature and animals, he has also managed to preserve the family's ancient charm. Charles, speaking for the younger generation, makes sure that the values of kindness, fortitude, and family continue to be a lighthouse for audiences of all ages. It's not just the show that has benefited from Charles' storytelling style. Additionally, it has altered the global perception of rural veterinary medicine. In interviews, he emphasized the need to uphold the family's principles while making them approachable. "We wanted to avoid making it too dramatic." Charles told Entertainment Tonight that we wanted it to seem authentic. His dedication to reality produced situations that included not just difficult animal cases, but also private family moments, ties to the community, and everyday difficulties faced by rural clinics. A potentially interesting show became a popular one because of its candor, which appealed to viewers of all ages and backgrounds. The series' unique blend of emotive storytelling and educational knowledge was made possible by Charles' combined roles as producer and relative, which helped to bridge the gap between the urban audience and rural living. Finale of The Incredible Dr. Pol series. The Incredible Dr. Pol ended its tenure on television on July 6, 2024, with a heartfelt series finale after more than 10 years. The Nat Geo Wild reality show followed the personal and professional lives of Dr. Diane Pol, a Dutch-American veterinarian, who is well known for his unwavering dedication to rural animal care in Michigan, over the course of 24 seasons. Since its 2011 premiere, the show has attracted millions of viewers with its realistic depiction of veterinary practice, picturesque Midwestern landscapes, and strong familial values. It was one of Nat Geo Wild's most successful series due to its enduring popularity. Fans who had followed the Pol family for years were overcome with emotion as the final season was revealed, as they recalled how the show had become a source of solace during uncertain times. Especially during the COVID-19 pandemic, many took to social media to express their gratitude and sadness. Viewers were deeply impacted by the friendliness of the clinic's employees and the genuineness of Dr. Diane Pol's relationships with the animals. In addition to saying goodbye, the series finale honored the more than 50,000 animals that were treated, the hundreds of community tales that were told, and the veterinary staff whose kindness never faltered. Diane Pol was a quiet but significant contributor to the family practice, even though Dr. Pol has been its public face. In her capacity as Pol Veterinary Services office manager and co-founder, she made sure the clinic could function properly every day. Her passion for teaching, her exceptional animal skills, and her innate leadership abilities enabled her to foster a kind and trustworthy atmosphere. Diane developed into a standalone character for the most of the show's run. Not for show, but for her consistency, modesty, and commitment to her family and the practice. From the very first episode to the very last, she had been a recurring character in the series. She had to undergo back surgery later in 2024 and dealt with very personal traumas, such as the deaths of her son-in-law Gregory and grandson Adam. However, she never wavered in her essence or presence. In this way, fans perceived her as resilient. Therefore, the audience didn't simply say goodbye to a television show as the amazing Dr. Pol concluded the final chapter. They honored a family's history, but above all, they honored Diane's modest bravery, whose unwavering leadership has ensured the show's success from its inception. What also stood out about the conclusion was the unique way it concluded, not necessarily with tributes or nostalgic scenes, but rather by demonstrating the impact the Pol family had on people's lives. Several longtime clients recalled in the most recent episode how the clinic had saved their dogs and in some way become an essential part of their families. One local farmer told us in a sad interview that Dr. Pol did more than just treat our cows, he offered us peace of mind. Quick behind-the-scenes footage of the crew and clinic employees cuddling, laughing and crying were also used in the conclusion. These spontaneous moments brought the show's realism to light and reinforced that it was about community, not just vet job. It felt like we weren't just watching a show, one of the internet spectators said. We lived in their world. Though not in the manner that fans may anticipate, the Pols had more to say even after the last credits had rolled. Many viewers of the incredible Dr. Pol were left wondering if Dr. Diane Pol and his wife Diane would be retiring after the show's July 2024 finale. In keeping with their character, the couple continues to be actively involved in their life's work. With the same zeal and commitment that characterized the program, Dr. Pol still treats animals at Pol Veterinary Services in Weidman. Despite health issues earlier in the year, Diane Pol has returned to her role as office manager at the clinic, proving her dedication to the company and the community they have served for decades. The Pols are not completely withdrawing from public life, even though they have moved out of the limelight of reality TV. Building on the success of his previous memoir, Never Turn Your Back on an Angus Cow, Dr. Pol has made references to new avenues for sharing his expertise and experiences, including the potential publication of a second book. Apart from publications, Dr. Pol has shown a desire to investigate online learning environments and give talks on veterinary medicine and rural care. He would be able to continue sharing his enthusiasm for animal care and mentoring future veterinarians through these new endeavors. Conversely, Diane Pol has made an effort to strike a balance between her own health and her work at the clinic. She has reassured fans that she is still a vital member of the clinic after properly recuperating from back surgery in the first half of the year. Her administrative abilities and constant presence continue to be essential to the clinic's operations. Even if she doesn't have any public appearances scheduled, her ongoing behind-the-scenes involvement demonstrates the strong sense of purpose that guides her every day. Dr. Pol and Diane remain living examples of dedication, humility, and impact as they go in this next chapter. Their story, which was formerly aired to millions of people every week on television, is now discreetly but no less significant in their day-to-day existence. The Pols continue to be a source of inspiration, whether it be through their work in veterinary medicine, mentoring, or simply their collective legacy. Their unwavering commitment to animals, community, and one another shows that a powerful legacy may continue to grow even after the cameras have stopped rolling. Indeed, the extent to which Pols remain committed to their cause outside of television was revealed by recent community events. Dr. Pol participated in a panel discussion about the future of veterinary practice in rural areas at a Weidman town hall meeting in late 2024, and he made a strong case for the need of mentoring. If we want to protect the health of animals in agricultural communities, we need to invest in teaching the next generation how to treat them with heart and grit, he continued. Diane, who was not on the panel, was seen quietly organizing logistics behind the scenes, reflecting the role she has played all along. Their presence at these events not only affirms their community, but also shows their continued influence in shaping the future of rural animal welfare. Thank you for watching. And if this story touched you, please remember to like the video, leave a comment to share your thoughts, and subscribe for more heartfelt updates. Don't leave just yet, click the next video on your screen to continue the journey with the Pol family.